So we have a lot of golfers from Calcutta who are logging on. So you can start off with a with a hello in Bengali, and then we'll start off.
Hey, how do you say hello in Bengali, by the way? Namaskar.
Okay, so
Hey, you
Pramit,
know
if
my
you can have the
Bengali is...
camera on Joy, please. Yeah. So Joy, it takes me great pleasure, and thank you so much for coming on this show. Uh, this is for everyone who doesn't know you. I mean, I go back, I don't know, maybe 25 years with Joy, and Joy has been on the PGA Tour with Tiger Sports, and he used to look after media. And from then, his career has been fantastic, and he's now one of the most respected sports and the golf journalists, especially across the world. So, Joy, just tell us a little bit about your journey before we go into the interesting stuff, because we'll give it another 5-7 minutes before we go into all the interesting stories. So, just tell us how you got involved with golf and how you started out.
That's a very interesting story over there. I was working with Indian Express back in 1995. I was on the sports desk, and my sports editor, a gentleman called Mr. H. Natarajan, he told me that so none of the journalists wanted to go all the way to Chembur and cover golf, a sport that they really did not know about much. So he asked me, why don't you, Joy, start covering this sport? Because I think it is the sport of the future. And Chembur used to be on the way for me because I was living in Navi Mumbai at that time, going to Express Stars in Nariman Point. I used to go down to Chembur and started covering club golf and things like that. And then the few tournaments that we used to have over there, like the BPGC Open and Crompton Greaves or Mahindra Invitational at that time. And, I really loved interacting with the golfers. I was doing a lot of cricket and other sports at that time. And even, players in the Ranji Trophy Mumbai team would be so hoity-toity. I mean, if you ask for a time of an appointment of 9 o'clock for an interview, they might turn up at 11 o'clock. Whereas I really give you an example when there was Jeev and Daniel, both playing on the European tour at that time. And I asked for an appointment, and Jeev told me that I'll come at, say, something like 9:35. And Daniel and Jeev, both were there exactly at 9:35. And those were some of the things that really got me hooked onto the sport. I mean, the sport itself is so addictive, we all know. But, it's the players themselves that they went out of their way to teach me the basics of the game and things like that. It was amazing. It was amazing. I mean, guys like you, Gaurav, Feroz Ali, I mean, I can go on and on. On the tour, you guys were so helpful in teaching me so many things, and I tried to soak it all up.
I think we've lost. Yeah. I think we lost your audio.
You have?
Yeah. Okay, you're back.
Yeah.
So, Joy, tell me. Tell us about some interesting stories about on the Indian tour when you were with us on the PGA tour.
I think from my perspective, from the perspective of the media, I would say one of the most interesting things was that we would go to places like Digboi, Jalandhar, Ludhiana, and where even in metro cities, like Delhi and other places. And I would always face this issue that most of the journalists who would come to cover the tournaments would not really know much about golf. And I think that was one of the most interesting challenges that I faced as the media manager at that time. And just to introduce them to the players, to prepare all kinds of stats and profiles of the players, which was never done before that. I mean, people even did not know when Jeev Milkha Singh turned pro. So the situation was like that. And, I mean, without those kinds of stats and profiles, it was very difficult for uh, journalists who did not have much idea about the game to really start writing. So I think the most interesting part of that entire 7 years that I spent with Tiger Sports Marketing and with the PGI at that time was the fact that while I learned a lot about the game and the players, it was also about teaching the media as such at that time. As I said, and there were not many people who really know about the game. I could really count in my hand some of the journalists who could identify players and identify jobs. So, just teaching them about it, that was a very fun part of it. And obviously, I mean, when you know the golfers outside the golf course, outside the fairways, they're all such fun people. And we had such amazing time in the evenings. I remember, I don't know whether we are supposed to say this or not, but going to the casinos in Kathmandu and just spending the night over there. And, I mean, some amazing memories, really.
Before we start the chat today, um, how do you? I mean, we just kind of informally starting now, but how do you see the golf getting affected worldwide?
I mean, well, if we just see at the professional golf to start with, I mean, because that's the one that is mostly in the spotlight. It's going to be affected a lot. I mean, the entire schedule of all the tours have been put back by almost at least 4 5 months. Now that's, I mean, either you cancel the tournaments. Many of the tournaments have been cancelled, but something like the Indian Open and all, they have to be rescheduled. That's going to be one
Yeah.
heck of a
I'm
job.
not. I'm not going into the key question because most of the viewers will be logging on as we go it along. So we'll give another 5 7. So I'm just, the discussion we're having now is just like a casual one. Then I'll ask you the more important question. So
Hmm.
how's Dubai? I mean, Dubai. Just tell me about club golf. What is the scene in? I mean, how have they totally stopped the golf courses, or is it?
Absolutely stopped in Dubai. Everything is closed. There are heavy fines for clubs and commercial places if they open it to public. But the good thing is that in Abu Dhabi, the three golf courses in Abu Dhabi have been opened to the members with severe restrictions. Like, for example, one cart can only be used by one person. And also in another Emirates, which is nearby called Ajman, they have opened one golf course today. So again, with severe restrictions. So I mean, like that's the good news. At least things are opening up, and members can start playing over there.
Right. So
Everything else,
so
academies, everything is stopped.
you're based in Dubai, right?
Yeah.
So, Joy, so how's it in Dubai? I mean, how do you get your groceries and things like that?
Oh, that way they've done a very good system. I mean, it's a lockdown. You can't really go out, but there is an official website over here of the government where you can just go, log in, put on your details like the Emirates ID number and the car number, car plate number, and you just have to give them a good reason, like going for essential groceries, and you give them the time for which you will be out, and then within 10 minutes you get your permission from the government. And if you go out with that permission, you can go to that particular grocery and get all your stuff, and there's no issues. Police will not do anything. Uh, but if you're caught without a permit by the police, many of them in plain clothes, then you will be fined heavily.
Okay.
But that system is really working, by the way.
Yeah, yeah, I'm sure. I like the T-shirt you're wearing. So we'll talk
Dressed
about
for
that
the
because
occasion.
I mean, we'll talk about right from the beginning days. So I'm not starting now because we expect close to 150 people across the world, but a lot of people from India to log on. and a lot of people have read, but they've never really put a face to those articles. So
That handsome face, you mean to say?
yeah. So this will be good. So Joy, tell me, where? So are you getting to play some golf in Dubai? I mean,
Not.
before the lockdown.
I actually did get to play a few rounds. I you're not aware, but quite a few players are actually there. I had a severe frozen shoulder problem on both the shoulders actually, which persisted for almost 1.5 years, and that was pretty painful. And I really couldn't play golf at that time. But I started about 6 months ago, and it's getting all right. It's getting better.
Right, I'm sure. So hopefully Ashwin will also be logging on. So are you in touch with any of the old friends?
Absolutely. On the Facebook, on text, we keep chatting time to time. Yeah, those were really good days.
Yeah,
Such
so
fond memories.
we will talk about obviously the starting. I think from the PG of India days. I
Yeah.
remember those days, and but just tell me. We'll talk a little more in detail, but how do you think golf is going to change with this? I mean, how long do you think? We won't go too much into detail, but just to get an idea of what you see. Let's forget about professional golf. Let's just talk about the golf industry. How long will it take to recover?
It's going to take a long time. Yeah, I think at least let's give it about 6 to 8 months before things get back to normal. I mean, like, for example, there are so many golf courses in places like Thailand and say Indonesia and Malaysia. But how many people will be going there in the next 4 5 months? Even if the lockdown is completely lifted, say by May 15th, how many people do you think are going to travel for tourism purposes or for industry purposes for the next 6 7 months? Not much. Uh, so I think that is going to hamper a lot. For example, I think the membership is going to take a lot of hit. Uh, so many people have lost their jobs already in this situation. The golf club, they were members of golf clubs, and I mean, the golf clubs have also lost them because, I mean, for example, if you are in a place like UAE, and if you lose your job, then it becomes really difficult for you to stay back in this country. You need to have a proper visa to stay back. So most of the people will be going back to their countries and things like that. So so it definitely, I mean, places where which depends on expat population to to for all their revenue, major revenue purposes, they are going to take a lot of time to really recover from this.
Right, right. And so tell me that before we start, I think we start in another 4 5 minutes. So tell us about golf in Dubai. I mean, what is the golf scene? How many golf courses? How many of the few Indians, prominent Indians there? And once we finish this, then we're going to officially start.
Okay. So there now one of the golf courses, which was a very prominent one called Al Badia Golf Club, which was right next to the airport, designed by Robert Trent Jones Jr. That closed down. So we now have 14 golf courses in and around Dubai, which is a very good number. Uh, and then in Abu Dhabi, we have got three really good golf courses, and then all championship size, and then one in the heart of the city, which is a 9-hole golf course with a good driving range. So there, I mean, quite a few facilities, and the facilities are amazing. I mean, like it's 5-star facilities. Almost any golf course that you go to, I mean, they charge 5-star rates as well. But I mean, like the balls that you get to play on the driving range will be Titleist, most probably Pro V ones. Uh, the range balls will be amazing. The carts will be all, you know, fitted with the best possible GPS system where you really don't need any yardages. The carts will give you the perfect yardage to the pin. So, I mean, the facilities are just amazing, and the clubhouse, food, beverage, really good. So, yeah, so that's that. we've got quite a few Indians. Uh, One of our very recent addition is Shiv Kapoor, who has taken up a house over here. So he's a good addition. Sujan Singh, who played a lot on the PGTI tour, is now instructor over here at the what used to be the Butch Harmon School of Golf, and it's now called the CH3 Performance Institute after his son Claude Harmon III took over all the operations. So quite a few and a lot of Indian expats playing golf, obviously.
Right. Right. So, Joy, I think we'll start this session formally. So, before we start, today is a very special day. So, Shubho Novoborsho.
Oh, thank you. Happy Poila Boishak and Vishu and all the festivals that we celebrate to
Yeah.
everyone listening.
Before we start the chat today, um, how do you? I mean, we just kind of informally starting now, but how do you see the golf getting affected worldwide?
I mean, well, if we just see at the professional golf to start with, I mean, because that's the one that is mostly in the spotlight. It's going to be affected a lot. I mean, the entire schedule of all the tours have been put back by almost at least 4 5 months. Now that's, I mean, either you cancel the tournaments. Many of the tournaments have been cancelled, but something like the Indian Open and all, they have to be rescheduled. That's going to be one
Yeah.
heck of a
I'm
job.
not going into the key questions because most of the viewers will be logging on as we go it along. So we'll give another 5 7. So I'm just the discussion we're having now is just like a casual one. Then I'll ask you the more important question. So how's Dubai? I mean, Dubai. Just tell me about club golf. What is the scene in? I mean, how have they totally stopped the golf courses, or is it?
Absolutely stopped in Dubai. Everything is closed. There are heavy fines for clubs and commercial places if they open it to public. But the good thing is that in Abu Dhabi, the three golf courses in Abu Dhabi have been opened to the members with severe restrictions. Like for example, one cart can only be used by one person. And also in another Emirates, which is nearby called Ajman, they have opened one golf course today. So again, with severe restrictions. So I mean, like that's the good news. At least things are opening up, and members can start playing over there.
Right.
Everything else,
So
academies, everything is stopped.
you're based in Dubai, right?
Yeah.
So, Joy, how's it in Dubai? I mean, how do you get your groceries and things like that?
Oh, that way they've done a very good system. I mean, it's a lockdown. You can't really go out, but there is an official website over here of the Dubai government where you can just go, log in, put on your details like the Emirates ID number and the car number, car plate number, and you just have to give them a good reason, like going for essential groceries, and you give them the time for which you will be out, and then within 10 minutes you get your permission from the government. And if you go out with that permission, you can go to that particular grocery and get all your stuff, and there's no issues. Police will not do anything. Uh, but if you're caught without a permit by the police, many of them in plain clothes, then you will be fined heavily.
Okay.
But that system is really working, by the way.
Yeah, I'm sure. I like the T-shirt you're wearing. So we'll talk
Dressed
about
for
that
the
because
occasion.
I mean, we'll talk about right from the beginning days. So I'm not starting now because we expect close to 150 people across the world, but a lot of people from India to log on, and a lot of people have read, but they've never really put a face to those articles. So
That handsome face, you mean to say?
yeah. So this will be good. So Joy, tell me, where? So are you getting to play some golf in Dubai? I mean,
Not
before the lockdown.
I actually did get to play a few rounds. I you're not aware, but quite a few players are actually there. I had a severe frozen shoulder problem on both the shoulders actually, which persisted for almost 1.5 years, and that was pretty painful. And I really couldn't play golf at that time. But I started about 6 months ago, and it's getting all right. It's getting better.
Right, I'm sure. So, hopefully, Ashwin will also be logging on. So, are you in touch with any of the old friends?
Absolutely. On the Facebook, on text, we keep chatting time to time. Yeah, those were really good days. Uh,
Yeah.
Such
So we
fond
we will
memories.
we will talk about obviously the starting. I think from the PG of India days. I
Yeah.
remember those days, and but just tell me. We'll talk a little more in detail, but. How do you think golf is going to change with this? I mean, how long do you think? We won't go too much into detail, but just to get an idea of what you see. Let's forget about professional golf. Let's just talk about the golf industry. How long will it take to recover?
It's going to take a long time. Yeah, I think at least let's give it about 6 to 8 months before things get back to normal. I mean, like, for example, there are so many golf courses in places like Thailand and say Indonesia and Malaysia. But how many people will be going there in the next 4 5 months? Even if the lockdown is completely lifted, say by May 15th, how many people do you think are going to travel for tourism purposes or for industry purposes for the next 6 7 months? Not much. Uh, so I think that is going to hamper a lot. For example, I think the membership is going to take a lot of hit. Uh, so many people have lost their jobs already in this situation. The golf club, they were members of golf clubs, and I mean, the golf clubs have also lost them because, I mean, for example, if you are in a place like UAE, and if you lose your job, then it becomes really difficult for you to stay back in this country. You need to have a proper visa to stay back. So most of the people will be going back to their countries and things like that. So so it definitely, I mean, places where which depends on expat population to to for all their revenue, major revenue purposes, they are going to take a lot of time to really recover from this.
Right, right. And so tell me that before we start, I think we start in another 4 5 minutes. So tell us about golf in Dubai. I mean, what is the golf scene? How many golf courses? How many of the few Indians, prominent Indians there? And once we finish this, then we're going to officially start.
Okay. So there now one of the golf courses, which was a very prominent one called Al Badia Golf Club, which was right next to the airport, designed by Robert Trent Jones Jr. That closed down. So we now have 14 golf courses in and around Dubai, which is a very good number. Uh, and then in Abu Dhabi, we have got three really good golf courses, and then all championship size, and then one in the heart of the city, which is a 9-hole golf course with a good driving range. So there, I mean, quite a few facilities, and the facilities are amazing. I mean, like it's 5-star facilities. Almost any golf course that you go to, I mean, they charge 5-star rates as well. But I mean, like the balls that you get to play on the driving range will be Titleist, most probably Pro V ones. Uh, the range balls will be amazing. The carts will be all you know fitted with the best possible GPS system where you really don't need any yardages. The carts will give you the perfect yardage to the pin. Uh, so, I mean, the facilities are just amazing, and the clubhouse, food, beverage, really good. So, yeah, so that's that. We've got quite a few Indians. Uh, One of our very recent addition is Shiv Kapoor, who has taken up a house over here. So he's a good addition. Sujan Singh, who played a lot on the PGTI tour, is now instructor over here at the what used to be the Butch Harmon School of Golf, and it's now called the CH3 Performance Institute after his son Claude Harmon III took over all the operations. So quite a few and a lot of Indian expats playing golf, obviously.
Right. Right. So, Joy, I think we'll start this session formally. So, before we start, today is a very special day. So, Shubho Novoborsho.
Oh, thank you. Happy Poila Boishak and Vishu and all the festivals that we celebrate to everyone listening.
So, Joy, why don't you try and remember some of the different experiences with players, the ones which obviously you can talk about.
Let me talk about you. Guys, all of whom, if you are being coached by Indrajit Bhalotia, let me tell you, if somebody asked me as a journalist in 1998, 99, who do you think is the most talented golfer, or let me put it, who is one of the most talented golfers in the country, I would not hesitate to name him in the first 2 or 3 names that I would take. I don't know. Maybe he didn't work hard enough. He just took his talent for granted. But I really thought that he would be winning on the Asian Tour at least 10, 12 times. So, I mean.
Okay, so Joy, let's get to.
You didn't like that.
I think we're going off this topic now. So, when did you decide to really move away from India? I'm going to get into the more interesting stuff a little later. Before that, everybody, if you have any questions, just type it out and I'll ask Joy at some point of time. So please feel free to type out your questions. There's a chat box in the bottom. So please feel free to type out your question. So Joy, when did you decide to move on from India?
That was in 2004 that I moved to Dubai. I was going through a bit of a personal issues at that time. My daughter was born at that time, and she was premature baby. She was in the neonatal ICU for almost 2 months, and so at that time I was going through a lot of financial strain. Had to take a lot of debt from people, loan from people, and I thought the only way I can really pay back everyone in time was that if I took this opportunity I had in Dubai, which is a tax-free country. 10 sports was being formed at that time, and they were after me for quite some time to come to Dubai and take over as their manager, as a director of communications. So at that time in 2004, we decided, me and my wife, that it was a much better thing to do if I moved to Dubai and started all over again. So that was the time when I moved to Dubai. Have been here ever since.
Right, Joy. So before we go into more details, which are the majors you've been to? A lot of people would want to ask, which are the majors you've been to?
I've been to almost each and every one of them. I mean, if you just look at the 4 majors, I've been to Ryder Cup, 2 of them. The first major I covered was 2002 US Open at Bethpage Black, when Jeev became the first Indian to feature in a US Open. And that was really interesting.
Okay, so we'll talk about that golf course. I've played there at least 50 to 60 times on that Bethpage Black.
I think we must be having the same host at that time. I know. Long Island.
So I know how tough that golf course is. I mean, unless you play it. Did you see that sign outside the golf course? Did you see that sign which says, it's only for skilled golfers? So it's like a warning sign.
Yeah. That's why I never played that golf course.
So can you tell us a little bit about the 2002 US Open? And you were obviously with Jeev, watching him. Can you just talk about that for a little bit?
The most one memory that really stands out for me from that US Open was the fact that, Jeev shot 75 in the first round and 75 in the second round. And he was playing in the morning group in the second round. Had a horrible lie in the bunker on I think the 16th hole. It was completely buried lie. And he hacked it out, made a double bogey, and shot a 75 on day two. And so he was 75-75. My deadlines were all over because at that point of time, none of the newspapers in India would have been working. So I went back with Jeev to his hotel. And, for 4.5 to 5 hours, Jeev kept telling me that I've missed the cut by one shot. And I kept telling him that you have made the cut. You will make the cut. And we were on his laptop, refreshing the score for about 5 hours. And it was towards the end of the day that the cut went to 150, which was 10 over, and Jeev made it. And then he shot 75-75 the next 2 days as well. But that was that point of time. It was such a ringside view for me to a professional golfer or athlete's life. It was his first major, and Jeev has played a lot of majors after that, but he was a very anxious man at that time. He was just kept looking at scores, and I could see how much a professional player has to go through the kind of anxiety. It's not just the hard work, it's just so many things that come together with it. But it was an amazing US Open for me. The New York crowd sang "Happy Birthday, Phil Mickelson" all the way through. That was an amazing thing to see. Then we had Sergio Garcia going through his yips issue. He would take about 1 minute 30 seconds, 1 minute 40 seconds to pull the trigger. And that was another thing that everyone was talking about and people booing from the background. Then there was Gold Digest who was, giving out buttons which you can put on your caps and other places. And it said, "Be nice to Monty," because Colin Montgomery was, not very loved in the US, obviously. So those kind of things, it was, and I get to stay with Arjun Atwal at his home in Long Island. And that was another, eye opener. I must tell you this about Arjun. I'm taking a little bit of time, but Arjun was such an amazing host for me that week. And I saw him from close quarter for the first time. And, one thing that people keep talking about Arjun back in India at that time, mostly the journalists would say that, why is he playing? He comes from such a well-to-do family. He really doesn't need to put in that kind of effort and things like that. And I think any of the junior golfers who are listening to this, if you're listening to this, I must say, during those days, 7 days I was at his home, there was only one day when Arjun didn't go out to practice. That was probably Sunday of the week. But every day he would get up in the morning, about 7:30, have breakfast, drop me to the Bethpage golf course, go for his practice in another golf course nearby, and only come back in the evening, pick me up from Bethpage Black, and then go back home. That was the kind of commitment that guy had. Putting in 12, 13 hours every single day. And whoever after that would tell me that, he comes from an affluent family. Does he need to? Sport is not the thing. And, those kind of talks keep happening. And I would just give them this example that if you just see that the work ethics of that man, how can you even talk anything like this? So that was an amazing week, really.
So Arjun must have spoken about the Bethpage Black, because Bethpage was, I remember, one of Arjun's actually home courses. He grew up playing on that golf course. So did he talk about the golf course? Because I'm sure it really hurt him not to be playing that Open.
Yeah, it hurt him not to be playing that Open. It also hurt him not to to be practicing at Bethpage Black at that time. We had to go to some other golf course. I'm forgetting the name of that golf course, but uh, yeah, players like that, players of Arjun's caliber, will be hurting every time any major comes. And I'm sure, even at this stage, when he's not a regular member on the PGA Tour, if the Masters was going on, there was no way somebody like Arjun would just sit back and enjoy it on television. They would be dying to be out there and hitting shots. So,
So,
yes, he was really upset that he didn't make it to that Open. It was
so
like a
Joy,
home Open for him.
I just want to ask you, what are your other US Open experiences other than this 2002? Because I think one of the main things that everyone's looking forward is to get that behind the scene experiences which people don't get to know from you. So, any other US Open experiences before we move to the next major?
Uh, I, I, Again, Bethpage Black, 2009. I went there for the 2009 Open. Again, Jeev was playing over there, uh, and it rained so much during the week. It was slushy all the way through, uh, and I really don't know how the players played that golf course that week. The fairway was fine. They had managed to. It had drained off from the fairway, but if you were in the rough, it was brutal. It was difficult walking on the rough, and to see players hitting shots out of that rough in that thick, water-laden. Uh, uh, I don't think it was Paspalum. I think it was Chippewa, whichever grass it was. But to hit shots from there, that was one thing that hit the players hitting shots from the rough that week was something that I was so fascinated about. Uh, yeah, and then I went to the Pebble Beach 2010, where Arjun was playing as well. And Graham McDowell won that tournament, and Pebble Beach is so beautiful. Oh, must go.
Right. So, Joy, out of these two, let's just compare because both the opens were at Bethpage. Which open which open had lower scores and which open the course was playing a little easier? I mean, I'll say less tougher rather.
See, I think it was playing quite tough in 2002 when the US Open was held, because at that time, really, the course setup, the way they had done it with the fairway starting, there was a one particular hole, I think 10th hole, where the fairway started 265 yards. And, somebody like Corey Pavin who was playing, he couldn't reach the fairway on any of the 4 days. And given the kind of equipment we had, obviously Big Bertha 2 had come, and but it was not allowed on the tour and things like that. There were players. The holes were so long, 4 holes in excess of 500 yards, 4 par 4 holes, which was unheard of at that time. So, the conditions were really tough at that time because of the way the course was set up. But when it was in 2009, it was because of the weather that it was tough. I would say comparatively, because it was almost like the first time players faced something like that, that kind of length, that kind of second cut of fairway, of rough, sorry. The first 2002 US Open was really a game changer for US Opens. They really put some more, tricked up the golf courses after that.
Right. And what about the PGA Championship? You've been to a few of them?
PGA Championship, I've been to just one. Somehow, I have not been able to go to PGA Championship as many times as I've been to Masters or to the Open Championship, which I go almost every year. I also do some work for the Masters guys and for the R&A. But PGA Championship is something that I've not really been able to go as many times as I would have. Mm, it's also very difficult, I mean, like when you are a journalist to go to 4 or 5 different events every year on the newspaper's cost, and now at my own cost, because I'm boss now. I'm a freelancer as well. So I mean, like if I have to really choose between events, I would say number one would be the Masters. I love Masters. Number two would be the Open Championship. Number three would be the US Open, and then the PGA Championship. If you really ask me a preference of going to majors,
Right.
and
So,
I love Ryder Cup. Ryder Cup, the experience is mind blowing.
so Joy, where were you when Arjun Atwal won his PGA Tour event?
I was in Dubai watching every minute of it. I I must have been the one of the first guys to call him up. Obviously, he didn't pick up my call because he he was busy. Let's say doing some really good job collecting the check and the trophy. But oh, that was such a proud moment for me. I mean, like I mean, somebody winning on the PGA Tour. I've been living this. I've been seeing this dream ever since I became involved with the tour and with golf since 1996 actually, that somebody will one day win on the PGA Tour, and it happened. Wyndham, can't forget.
So, Joy, tell me, how was how are the 4 majors different? I mean, obviously you've been to the Open a few times, I know, and the Masters a few times. So, how are they different?
I think if you ask me, the best field in any major is the PGA Championship, because they have such superb qualification criteria. I mean, almost the top 100 guys will make it to the PGA Championship field. So the field, if you really ask me, is the best at PGA Championship. If you want to see players battling out a golf course, there's nothing like the US Open. I mean, the way the golf courses are set up is incredible. The speed of the greens, the rough, the way the bunkers are done. I mean, everything about that tournament is just tough, tough, tough. Uh, the British Open is one tournament that I absolutely love because it is at links courses, at the mercy of the weather. You can have players shooting 63, 64 on day one, and the next day you will see even Tiger shot 81 at Sandwich in 2011. The weather can be so fickle. You need so much creativity on those links courses. I just love the Open Championship because of that. And then obviously there's the Masters. It has to be in the bucket list of not just golf fans. It has to be in the bucket list of any sport fan, because that place is so incredible. They're steeped in so much history, tradition, the feel good factor over there. I mean, if as a fan you're going, and if you can get your hands on some tickets, the food and beverages are priced so low. I mean, IPL would be about IPL or a test match or a Ranji Trophy match. If you go to see and you want to buy any beverage or food over there, it would be about 6 times costlier than what it is at the Masters. Yeah, incredible. And the place is so beautiful. Facilities are amazing.
Joy, tell us about some of the pros, the Indian pros that you've seen uh, prepare for the majors. Can you just talk about how different they are? How they prepared, how the mental side was. I mean, you can pick on 3, 4 of the players that you've seen at the majors and talk about them.
See, I think the thing is that the one common factor with all the players is the week of the major when they are over there, and I get to see them that week. I don't think they are putting in as much time trying to perfect something, or
Okay, let me
learn.
change the question. I know that most of the guys are your friends, and definitely during the majors you would be having a meal with them. So just tell me, who do you find more tense? Who do you find more relaxed? And just the behavior of the course.
Hey, it's really interesting because I mean I was very lucky. I stayed with Jeev in his house during 2007 Masters when he played for the first time, and I stayed with Shubhankar actually when he played his first Masters in 2018. And I had a very, and obviously Ban is a very good friend of mine, and I've seen him at close quarter whenever he's playing Open Championships or the Masters. Hardly any of them is tense. I mean, Shubhankar, I would have, Jeev, I can understand he's not tense when I went and stayed with him in 2007 Masters because he had played in so many majors by that time. He had played in so many big tournaments, won so many big tournaments. But I really thought Shubhankar would be very tense before a tournament of that stature, playing his first Masters. That guy is as cool as a cucumber. He was completely chilled out during the week. He put in a lot of hard work. I mean, if in the hindsight, if you ask me which player I've seen work the most during a major week, it would be Shubhankar. I mean, he was out there from morning to evening. But I mean, when he was back at home, he was so chilled out. He was relaxed. Uh, Even prepared Maggie for me one day, one night for dinner, and we had great fun. So really, I mean, I think most of these guys, once they are over there, they really have that belief that they have the right. They're not privileged to be there. They've earned their way over there, and that changes everything.
Okay, so I'm going to go off a little bit. Which out of the four majors and the Ryder Cup, which has the best media facility?
Without doubt, the Masters. If you see the media center of the Masters, it is mind-boggling. It is uh, just to give you an idea. I mean, the Masters media center, everyone has got their own seats and everything. They have got about three displays in front of us, and in at the Masters, what you can do as a journalist is that if I want to say follow uh, a certain player across the 18 holes, and I want to be at the media center because I want to talk to other players who are coming in or giving interviews, I can just sit at my place. I can, on my screen, I can see each and every shot. I can follow a player hitting each and every shot from hole number 1 to hole number 18. So they have got cameras, I mean, fixed cameras on each of the holes. And I can follow, say, if Shubhankar is playing, I can follow him hitting his first tee shot on the first, his second shot. Then there's a camera on the green. If I press the camera, the first green camera, I can see him making the putt over there. I really don't have to follow him all the way through. That kind of paraphernalia that the Masters has is not there with any other majors at the moment. Uh, yeah, and the food is exceptional. And the guys there at the Masters, everyone knows their job. That's one of the good things of having one tournament at one place for the last, since 1934. I mean, if you walk to any, even a janitor working near the merchandise area and ask him where this particular tree is near the 16th hole, he will be able to point out to you. So that's the kind of people that there are, all knowledgeable about every part of the tournament. It's really a fun place to be.
Okay, Joy. So going off again a little bit, there's a question what are the good points? What are the, there'll be a lot of youngsters watching also. So what are the good qualities of a elite player? You've seen top players. I think you can share your experience about meeting people like Tiger Woods and Rory also. But before we get to that, what are the qualities? Let's say if you had to name 5 qualities a successful top professional golfer has, what do you think they are, the 5 top qualities?
Uh, okay, there are different perspectives, but if I have to just talk from media perspective, it will be slightly different. If I talk from a fan's perspective, it
No,
will be
I
a
would
little
I would like
different.
you to I would like you to talk from quality perspective as a player. So forget being a media person. You've seen the people closely. So what are the 5 qualities they have, uh, which makes them great players? Let's try and answer from that point of view.
I think the number one quality that just stands out in most of the top players is the dedication that they have towards their trade. And by that I mean like if there's a golf tournament going on, there's there's no chance you will see Rory McIlroy out having a dinner at 8 o'clock in the night outside somewhere. That week is almost completely given to the tournament, and the kind of preparation that goes into it. I mean, somebody like, I mean, you obviously know it very well, but some of the young guys who might be listening to me, the kind of effort that a top golfer puts in, then it's not just the number of hours, but I mean, to the fact that they have to be mentally strong, so they have time for that. Physically strong, so they have time for that. Uh, they have to sharpen their skill all the time. And then there are other things like, pandering to request from media, the sponsorship angle of it, making sure. So it's if I have to just put it all in one word, it's just unflinching dedication to the sport, to the trade that they're applying. I mean, if that is not there, I don't think you can become successful in any trade. But as a golfer, no chance. I mean, gone are the days when you had this, you know, thing about golfer that oh, it's just a fun sport. You go play around in the evening, have a beer, go out for a party, come back late. Those, I mean, what maybe somebody like um, Sam Snead used to do, or Gene Sarazen used to do in their time. That's not possible now. So I think that is number one, dedication to their trade. And once you have that, everything else flows from that. But I mean, you've got to be so curious to know that. I mean, we all talk about Nick Faldo's example. I mean, when he won a major, he went ahead and changed his golf swing. I mean, how many people will do that? I mean, you talk about Tiger. Tiger did the same thing. I mean, he won a major by that kind of, in 1997, by that kind of uh, dominance, with that kind of dominance, and then he goes and he wants to change something, and spends a couple of years with Butch Harmon just trying to change his swing. Uh, that's that's not living in the past. That's another thing that you've got to do. You've got to be constantly aware of what you're doing, how you can get better, uh, speak to people. I mean, Rory McIlroy, just because he was not happy with it, he's a great putter on his day,
So,
but just because he was.
Joy, sorry for interrupting. We would love to hear your experience with Tiger, Rory, and some of the other players. If you can talk about your interaction, and after that we'll talk about Hedrick, because I know he's a friend of yours. So before that, I would like you to talk about these people individually and your personal experience.
Uh, okay, so Tiger. Tiger, I think, I mean, I really consider myself fortunate that I've been able to cover golf when Tiger has been playing. So let's just forget the fact that how good a golfer he is and everything. But the kind of changes that I've seen in Tiger over the years, and now, I mean, as a media person, Tiger used to get a little boring for most of us journalists because he had such prepared answers. I mean, like it was, uh, he would really open up. He would give you something. I mean, he had some great qualities. He would look you in straight into your eyes and answer, but he would avert any controversial question or anything, and he was a master at that. But now he has opened up a lot. I mean, he really talks from his heart. Uh, the one interaction of Tiger just that I keep telling everyone when they ask me about my interactions with Tiger was when Tiger was announced as the golf course designer of his first golf course design was going to be in Dubai, and it was called Tiger Woods Dubai. So we had a press conference, and it was in a huge ballroom in one of the hotels over here. There were about at least 700-800 people, and the VIPs and sheikhs and all the high flyers of industry. And in between all that, there was there were five journalists who were chosen to ask questions to Tiger Woods. There was a one-on-one interview. My first one-on-one interview with Tiger. I've asked him questions during press conference and all, but that was the first time I was meeting Tiger one-on-one. And so everyone had given us time, 2 minutes. And after 2 minutes, the PR person over there would come to you and they had a stopwatch and they would say, okay, that's it, done. Next guy coming in. And Tiger was sitting in this throne at the end of the room. And so a few days before, actually, Tiger was playing the HSBC tournament in Shanghai, and Jeev was paired with him for the first 2 days. And I was obviously walking with the two guys, and I was asking a lot of questions to Tiger because I saw all the shots that he hit that day for those 2 days, and even afterwards. So, I mean, there's this tiger sitting over there, and from about 20 yards, the journalists were being ushered in, and they were given the 2 minutes, please. So I went, and Tiger saw me from far, from about 10-15 yards, and his just eyes just lit up, and he smiled, and he got up from his throne, and he said, "Hey man, I've seen you around." And he just started talking to me and asking. Jeev had won a couple of tournaments in Japan, back-to-back tournaments in Japan at that time. And he started asking me about Jeev. And those 2 minutes were gone even before we could sit down. And so the PR person came to Tiger and said that Tiger said, "Oh, just hold on. I'm fine." And then we just that was an interview which was about 8-9 minutes long. But Tiger getting 8-9 minutes it's it's very hard. I can assure you that. But that was really nice. I mean, and everyone looking at me and why Tiger got up for this guy. Well, Tiger may not remember me now that well. I mean, he won't remember my name or something maybe. But that was amazing. I loved that experience.
And what about Rory?
Rory is such an honest and forthright guy from day one that I've seen him. And I saw him because Dubai Desert Classic was perhaps the first professional tournament that gave him an invitation to play as an amateur. I think it was in 2006 that he played for the first time. And I've been watching Rory ever since. And, from the days when he had that long curly hair and, I mean, and what has really struck me from day one is the honesty and the forthrighteousness of that person. I mean, he will call a spade, and he has never minced his words. He has gotten into a lot of trouble for that, but he will absolutely give you the what's in his heart, and I love him for that. And I mean, well, I've had several interactions with him, and one that really stood out was when he plays in Dubai. He has got this guy who is his bodyguard, who is about 7 feet 4 inches, maybe not that much, but he's built like Schwarzenegger, and he's always with him, and really, I mean, he keeps people away from Rory during the tournament time. So Rory was playing a round, a practice round, and he was playing with one of our young guys over here, Rehan Thomas. He was number one amateur, now with Oklahoma State University. So he was playing a practice round with him, and so I started walking with them, and this guy comes from behind and he puts his hand on my shoulder and he says, "Excuse me." I turned back and I had to like look my head like this and look at this guy, and towering man like Jaws in James Bond movies. And I said, "Yeah, I'm walking with them." And he said, "Nobody is allowed to walk if you don't have the members and the players guest or whatever badge." And Rory just turned around and said, "No, no, Joy is with me. Don't worry." And that round that I walked with him, close quarters, I watched him. It was fascinating, really. I mean, like, you see them from away from behind the ropes, and then you see them how they practice when you're walking with them. Oh, it was the kind of attention to detail he had. It was amazing. That was one of the best experience that I've had as a journalist, really.
Right.
And he was so nice to Rehan, a young boy. That was amazing as well.
So before we go to Hendrik, there's a question. Have you witnessed the President's Cup?
I have been to the 2017 President's Cup when Anirban became the first Indian to play in a President's Cup.
Please talk about that experience.
The best part about that tournament was that because of Anirban and his heroics on Saturday, the tournament was relevant for Sunday. Otherwise, the internationals would have lost it on Saturday itself. The singles were not needed. But, Liberty National Golf Course is, stunning, especially because of all the New York and the Manhattan skyline that you can see and the Statue of Liberty over there. But the kind of crowd that you get in New York is absolutely, should I say, mind-boggling. I mean, they're loud. They don't mince their word. And so they gave a lot of grief to the international players, but Anirban turned out to be a hero. Just the kind of putts that he made coming in. And in the last 5-6 holes, he turned it around. I think he was playing with Siwoo Kim, and they were absolutely fantastic. And just walking there, Swami, another one of our very veteran journalists, me and him were there walking the golf course, and it was such a proud moment. Guys suddenly starting to root for the international team and cheering Anirban and coming and asking us, because two very Indian-looking guys walking with him. That was really nice.
So tell us about Henrik Stenson. I believe you're friendly with him. So tell us some stories about him.
Henrik Stenson is I've known Henrik for a long time because he was a resident of Dubai. He came almost at the same time when I came to Dubai, and I used to meet him when he was on the trajectory of his career was on his way up, and then he lost his swing and he was hitting it all over the place, and still working his ass off at the golf course. He is. If somebody asks me about Henrik Stenson and what I like about him, it's not his 3-wood, which is sensational. I mean, more better than any GPS fitted equipment that you have ever seen. But what I really like about him is that he has been, I mean, he in 2013 he must have made more money than Bank of America and had more success. You know, he won the 2016 Open, and never once has he forgotten. Not just me, who saw him go through all his phases when he was here in Dubai, but all the other guys in Dubai who were his friends at the golf course, the guys who were working at the changing room, the guys were giving him cards. Just you should just look at his interaction with people, and it is something that I would say every golfer needs to learn how to be nice to people, and Henrik does that the best among all the leading elite golfers there are in the world. He's just magical in his approach and in his interaction with people. So I mean, like, so I did a couple of interviews, and he gave me a lot of access to in back in 2006 and 2007 when I was working with the golf magazine, and we have developed a friendship, and we keep in touch. And he has been incredible. And I think he's if there's no Indian player playing in a major, he's the person I'm always rooting for. I'm always going to work with him.
Okay, so there's a question before we go to the Ryder Cup. What do you think about journalism? How long have you been in Dubai, and what do you think about the opportunities of sports journalism in Dubai?
Indrajit, before I answer this question, one more thing I wanted to say about Henrik, which I think if we have a lot of junior golfers with us, I think it will resonate well with them. I mean, ever since I've seen Henrik, and he has gone through, I mean, he was going up in the world rankings, going down, then going up, going down again, back again to winning Tigers tournament in Bahamas. One thing that I've always seen is the kind of, it's like the trust that he has in Pete Cowan. Pete Cowan is a very well-known golf coach, and not just Pete Cowan, other people in his group as well. For about 16, 17 years, I've seen him having complete and implicit trust in all his team, and just I mean, when I did some instructions with the instructional video, pictures and instructional for the magazine with Hendrik, he did the pictures, and he said that for all the words, I want Pete to be here. If Pete goes and tells him, and now that he's 44 years old, if Pete still goes and tells him that, Henrik, I think you're hitting that 3-wood really well, but just change this, he would do it. And he will. So what I want to say is that if you are youngsters, if you're getting the kind of results that you want with your coaches, with other people, give them your complete trust till it is broken, I mean, just don't go from one person to another. And that is something that Henrik has really taught me. But then coming to the next question that you asked about how journalism in Dubai is. See, I mean, a lot of things will be.
So how long have you been? How long have you been in Dubai, Joy?
Since 2004 now, so it's more than 16 years. And
okay, so I'll change the question a little bit. So, along with journalism in Dubai, also if you can talk about sports journalism as a career.
Okay. I think if you just ask me if I would have taken up anything else, I did my MBA. Okay, I'm an MBA. I started with a very well-known advertising agency in the country, and I worked for about 25 days with them before I gave that up. And I took up a job in a newspaper for about 1/4 the salary. just because I love sport. And if you love sport, there is no other job like sports journalism. I mean, I've been able to, thanks to my job, I've been able to talk to guys like Tiger, Rory. I've been able to watch guys like Jeeves play their first Masters. Uh, I've been to places where people just dream of going, and I mean, those kind of stuff is, and it's a new challenge every day. I mean, like when you write a story, it's something that has to be different, and it's not like it's not it's almost unlike a golf swing. You just can't have it repetitive. It has to be different, and that's another fun part of it. uh, so there are so many things about sports journalism, uh, which, if somebody is interested in sport, especially if you have got passion for sport, I would definitely recommend it. The Obviously, the scenario is changing a lot. The newspapers are not doing really well in most of the countries, but then there are other platforms that are coming up. I mean, podcasts are becoming really popular. The digital media, I mean, the kind of traction that was something that I do on my own, say, Twitter handle. Uh, it's a very direct kind of contact with people. So there are new opportunities which are coming up. But I mean, like as a career, sports, if all journalism, investigative journalism, legal journalism, city journalism, science journalism, I would go for sports journalism anytime.
Okay, Joy. So, if you had to say, to be a good sports journalist, what are the good qualities that you need to have?
I think the most important quality that you need to have is, first of all, observation. You need to be you need to find out things which can be a something new in your story. So that's the power of observation is one of the most important things, I would say, as a journalist. One of the important qualities. Obviously, you've got to read yourself. You've got to be curious about stuff. Um, I I won't be a good golf journalist if I'm not reading what other people are writing, if I'm not reading what's happening on Twitter, on Instagram, and what people are posting. If I'm not curious as to know as to what Tiger did on the Masters Day, uh, so how do I find it? Uh, so I follow them on all the social media platforms, try to find out, try to make my questions when I meet them the next time, maybe out of some of their personal kind of a thing. So, I mean, I think curiosity, power of observation, these are the two main things. And obviously also I think the ability to build relationship. Uh, I think one of the things that I take great pride in is the fact that, I mean, I don't think of of all the players that I've been involved with, say on the Indian PGA Tour, and when I go to Asia, I don't think I'm in touch with most of them. I mean, uh, there will be a text message or something. I mean, that kind of relationship I've built with, and I try very hard to keep that going. Those are things that are going to give you success in almost any other profession, but it is very much essential in something like this. I mean, if tomorrow Arjun Apal gets a spot in, say, the PGA Championship, and I know that if I text him or if I give him a call, he's going to pick up my call and give me the answer that I need. Will he pick up the call of somebody who has met him 10 times but hasn't really tried to know him better or try to build relationship with him? I don't think so. So that's another thing, I mean, which is very important in the business of sports journalism, that you've got to build relationship with the players, with the officials. Um, I mean, in Dubai, like if there are tournaments, I know most of the greenkeeping staff. I Those are kind of things, and caddies, the kind of stories that they can give you. All these other staff members, the players may not give you that kind of stories, and then you have to just do your investigation.
So can you give us some interesting incidents or stories that you got from caddies on the tour?
But then, there are lots of things that come up. I mean, like,
Just give
uh,
us a couple of interesting ones that you can think of.
so maybe, like, it's not really from caddy, but I was walking one day with Shubhankar's dad, Colonel Mohan Sharma, and we just started to talk about the fact that he had that run in 2018, winning the Malaysian Championship, and in South Africa, and then we were just talking, and he pointed out to us something very which if you are not paying attention, you would think that it is such a mundane stuff. Maybe you won't pay attention, but he said that one of the reasons he has not been playing well, we found out, was because of his shoes. And like, I asked him, and I got talking to him, to Shubhankar, and he told me that the sole of his shoes with FootJoy when he used to play was something different, and it used to raise his heel by less than half an inch, maybe. And when he went to Nike and he found out the shoes were amazing, but because his heels were down by that 0.5 or whatever kind of an inches or 5 millimeters and whatever, uh, there was a perceptible difference in his swing and in his stroke making. Maybe somebody like us or amateur golfers won't be able to make that difference, but somebody like Shivankar could feel that there was something going wrong over there. And like, I did that story, and I know, it was very well received, that kind of that story which I did for Hindustan Times at the time. But it's just that like, when you're talking to somebody, you have to keep your ears open, and then dig for it. If I had to ask Mohan Sharma, I had to ask Shubhankar, I had to talk to Jesse, and then the story really turned out pretty well.
Um, can you talk about the Ryder Cup? I mean, how it's different, and like for people like us, it's the most exciting tournament to watch because you take sides. It's almost like watching a cricket or a football match. So, can you just talk about the Ryder Cup a little bit?
The Ryder Cup is, I mean, forget the heroism involved. The Ryder Cup is all about the atmosphere. You know, I mean, that is one tournament that has really found its calling with the fans, uh, and that's because obviously you got to take sides. I mean, you are not just a Tiger fan who also likes Rory McIlroy. And because Jordan Spieth is such a nice guy, you also root for him when he does well. No, Ryder Cup is not like that. Ryder Cup is Tiger Woods. You may be the biggest Tiger Woods fan, but if you are living in Spain, a Tiger Woods birdie won't excite you at all, as much as a Sergio Garcia par would. It is the most incredible tournament when it comes to atmosphere. The first tee, I mean, the thing is that as Indians or as Asians, maybe we are not that invested into that tournament, and yet when you look at the crowd support and the kind of the golf that is being played because of all that, because of the kind of crowd getting behind you, uh, it just talks about this tournament. I mean, even if you're a Japanese with absolutely no interest in Ryder Cup because none of your players are playing, you are going to enjoy that tournament. So that's Ryder Cup. So much passion, so much adrenaline pumping, which you won't see in any other tournament.
So which side do you pick? I think I've guessed, but still I'm asking you. Is it
I,
USA or Europe?
I always pick Europe.
Yeah.
uh,
Okay, so there's
Forget the
one.
fact that Henrik has always been in the European team, but also because I mean there are other guys. I mean like Rafa Cabrera Bello is a very good friend of mine. Rory, I mean I can't really call him friend, but uh, he knows me by my name and everything, and we have seen each other for the past 14 years every year. Uh, it's just the fact that all these guys and the tournaments that we have. So I mean, like in Dubai and Abu Dhabi, the tournaments that we have are all European tour events. So I mean, naturally, I have a leaning towards Europe.
Okay, so there's a question. So what advice would you give a 16, 17-year-old junior who wants to
Hmm.
pursue golf as a career? So, whether they should pursue golf and studies in India or should they look to do college abroad? So, what would you suggest? What would you guide a 16, 17-year-old junior? What would you ask him to do?
It's actually a very pertinent question for a golfer of that age, and I've seen it in close. There are so many good golfers over here. I mean, Rehan Thomas, as I said, one of the boys from here. I've seen him how he has developed. I've seen how Shubhankar has developed. Uh, if, it's very difficult to put a formula over there. So, for example, Shubhankar turned pro at the age of 16, uh, and he has done really well for himself. Somebody like Rehan wanted to go to the American college system, wanted to get that kind of competition over there, and he has gotten into the best possible college over there for golf, that's Oklahoma State University. Guys like Matthew Wolf and Victor Howland being his alums. Um so it it basically, uh, if if I have to give my own opinion on this, I would say, I would say that going to US would be a really good idea. Turning professional at the age of say 18 or 19, it's really difficult. I mean, uh, amateur golf is a different level from club golf, but professional golf is a completely different level altogether. I mean, if you start thinking about the kind of money issues, the travel issues at that age, it's much more better to have number one a college degree. I mean, guys like Jeev and all got such good college degrees uh, just by playing golf. So you have got a great opportunity. If you're a good golfer, you've got such a great opportunity of going to the US and getting good scholarships. I mean, somebody like Rehan pays absolutely zilch, and he gets to play at Stillwater Creek, which is like one of the top 100 golf courses in the US every day. Uh, the Oklahoma State University team flies chartered flights to every where the tournaments take place, and they play the cream of American amateur golf. And those guys are, if you see the WAGR, the World Amateur Golf Ranking, Americans and people staying in America would make about 80% of WAGR top 50, top 100. So I mean that's the kind of competition you get. If you ask me, there's a great opportunity of getting an admission into a US college. Should you do
Right.
it? I think you should.
So, Joy, just talk about a little about the MENA tour, because I know that's the Middle East tour. Not too many people know about it, but I've heard some good things. Can you just talk about it a little bit?
Well, MENA Tour is one of the development tours in the Middle East and North Africa area. It's recognized by the International Golf Federation, so it has got world ranking points. It's uh, so the season this year was supposed to be from January to April, 10 tournaments, including the qualifying school. Uh, Unfortunately, after five tournaments, because of the coronavirus and everything, the later half, uh, or the last 5 tournaments will now be played, rescheduled for the later half of the year. But yeah, so it's it's a great tour, and I would recommend it to anybody from Europe to Asia onwards, and we have got guys from Canada and US playing over there. It's number one because great competition. You get some very good players. The Byron Nelson Award winner of last year, Ryan Lumsden of Scotland, is a member of the tour. Sam Locke, who was the silver medalist of the Open last year, is a member of the tour and played tournaments. So that kind of competition, but also the fact that the golf courses are really good. As I said, I mean, the quality of the golf courses in the Middle East and North Africa area are really good, and you get to play in the best of facilities, very good weather. Not many tours have, for example, Challenge Tour, Nordic Tour, all these tours are not really happening. That Asian Tour has got gaps in the first half of the year. Uh, so it it's a very good tour to play. Most of the tournament is $75,000, but everything is tax free. So I mean, from if you can put another 35-40% hike into the prize money. But yeah, $75,000 every week and good competition and world ranking points.
So, Joy, there's one question. When did you start playing golf? Uh, and were you a fan of golf? That I think you already answered, but when did you actually start playing golf?
I started playing golf after I started covering golf. So when I started going to Bombay Presidency Golf Club to start covering tournaments, there's this extremely I mean, like, if I say my golf guru, Digraj Singh, who was a professional, was teaching at that time. He was a national games
Digraj,
champion.
by the way, Digraj is watching this show.
Oh, amazing! Digraj Singh was, should I say, my golf guru, not only because he taught me golf, and I get, I mean, when I play, even though I play badly now, people talk to me and people tell me your grip is so nice, your stance is nice, and that's all because of what has been ingrained into me by Digraj Singh. He would take time out of his busy schedule and take three or four of us guys to the driving range and give us lessons, and especially, and that's when I was working with him. But when I was not, when I was a journalist, there was a tournament going on. He would be the tournament director, and he was so busy. But I mean, you could go to Digraj any time and ask him any question, and he will make the time for you. He will make sure he introduces you to the players. He would make sure that if you have questions about the game, he would go to the driving range and show you what a fluffed chip was. What if someone said that I duck hooked a ball, and when I first heard it, I didn't really know uh, what a duck hook was. So I mean, Digraj took me to the driving range and showed me duck hooks, and that kind of what he did for me is something that I really can't forget, and the kind of knowledge that he imparted into me, amazing. So
So,
he was the guy who really put me into
Digraj,
golf.
Digraj is just thanking you, so you can say hi to him.
Hey, Digraj.
Uh, so, Joy, just one question I had. You've seen the golfers like Jeev and Atwal, and then you've seen guys like Anirban and Shubhankar. Obviously, Shubhankar is much younger, but there's a couple of generations between these bunch of kids and our generation. What are the different things that you find? Obviously, today's kids are a lot more professional and they work harder on their fitness and stuff. But what are the traits you've seen between this generation of golfers and say the ones who were born in the 70s?
I think the number one thing that I find different now with golf, especially in India, is that you have access to, first of all, information and quality coaching. And when I think you were growing up, Indrajit, and being a player yourself, I know you would be so excited because IGU was calling Donato Di Pugnano for 2 weeks to India once a year, and you would get excited. Or, I would know Jyoti Randhawa just waiting for Kel Llewellyn to come from Australia for 1.5 weeks and just work with him on a short game. Now the kids are so lucky that there's quality coaching in India by Indian coaches, uh, and that's been a big difference. I mean, infrastructure-wise, we are still lagging so much behind that it's not even funny. I mean, how we are producing golfers like this with the infrastructure that we have, it's crazy. I mean, if the Americans were bought out and if they were to study golf in India, they would go crazy how we are doing it. But I mean, what has really improved is number one, as I said, I mean, the quality of coaching has improved. You guys, I mean, guys like who know the game, Tarun, Monish Bindra, Romit Bose, all these guys who have been players themselves, Karan Bindra, Anitya Chan, uh, and who have tried to enhance their knowledge all the time. I mean, that has been very important. Uh, Facility wise, not much has changed. I don't know whether much is going to change or not. But I mean, like, yeah, that's one of the main things that today's golfer is blessed with. And then obviously there are things like because of what Tiger has done to golf. Uh, I mean, like I keep watching videos of guys like Adil, Trishul Chinappa doing all kinds of exercises. I mean, I've never seen Indrajit Bhalotia doing any exercises. He's like not even warm up properly for his round. He would just go and play his round and shoot 5 under 67, just like that. But I mean, just look at today's kids. Each of them will do mental training, physical training. So that's what I've seen.
Okay, Joy. So just one interesting question I have, which I'm going to twist it a little bit and ask: what do you think is the difference between the PGA, the US PGA Tour, and the European PGA Tour? What 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 do you think are the main difference between the two tours?
So the main difference between the two tours is the fact that when you are in the US, the the let's just say, let's start with the prize money. The prize money is obviously the highest in the US PGA Tour. Because of that, the quality of competition is the highest on the PGA Tour. Uh, the kind of crowd support and everything, and the kind of ancillary support that you get is the best on the PGA Tour. Uh, Players have opportunities even after they have, there are retirement funds and things like that, pension fund, which is there only on the PGA Tour. So all these things are there. But I mean, like for the European Tour, I mean, like a lot has changed in the last few years, and what really is very unique, and or rather, what really is a big positive plus point for European Tour is the fact that it makes you a more well-rounded golfer. I mean, the kind of golf courses that you get on the PGA Tour are mostly almost similar. I mean, you have a good, nice, high ball flight, and you can just, I mean, make birdies, as many birdies as you want. Very few golf courses that are really different in nature or which will test your game all round. But when you're on the European Tour and you have to play, say, the sandbelt courses in Melbourne one day, and then you have to come to India and take on DLF Golf and Country Club and that kind of weather, and then you have to come and play Desert Golf and Desert Classic in Dubai, links courses in all of Europe. It makes you a more well-rounded golfer. That's what I feel, and the travel and everything else is very. I think is very important for the development of a golfer. I think Brooks Koepka is a great example of what PGA Tour is and what European Tour is. I mean, Koepka started with the Challenge Tour, graduated to the European Tour, and now he's just dominating the PGA Tour. He I mean, what he has achieved is something that everybody else can just have a look at.
Okay, so one final question. Can you try and remember 2, 3 of the most interesting answers that you've got in an interview? If you can, something that shocked you or something that was really interesting, just a couple of answers if you can think back.
One that I will always remember, Colin Montgomery. He's a very surly character, especially after he has finished his round and he didn't shoot a good score. And I think it was in 2004 or 5. I think he was just on his way down. Wasn't really the European Tour #1. I think 2007 or 8. I think it was that time. And he had a round, and he played really well. I think shot 2 or 3 under, and he was. I followed him for a few holes, and he was not hitting it close, but I think on those 6, 7 holes, I saw him making putts from almost 40 feet on every hole, and he would just burn the edges of all those 6, 7 holes. So I didn't know much about Colin Montgomery. I hadn't had much interaction with him, or this was more earlier, 2003 or something. And so in the press conference, I asked him, well, Colin, I think, you say that you didn't putt well, but I watched you playing the round, and I saw you burning the edge every single time from 40, 50 yards, 40, 50 feet. Come on, you can't say that your putting was not good. And, Colin, with his jowl hanging, even at that time when he was young, and he looked at me like this intently for about 20 seconds in the media center. And he said, young man, you don't know me then. That was quite funny, I thought. And everyone started laughing. But, any press conference that you have with Henrik Stenson is going to have to be full of laughs. The one question that I asked recently to actually Victor Howland when he came to play in Abu Dhabi, which European Tour did a video of and it became viral, was I asked him because he's called Twitterless Victor. He's not on Twitter. So I asked him when is he going to be on Twitter, something to that effect. And he had a very nice answer. And he had a dig at Phil Mickelson saying that when I reach my midlife crisis, I'll probably have a look at it. And that actually went viral. And so those are some of the nice memories.
Right, Joy. So okay, just a couple of short questions. What do you think of this new Premier Golf League? Challenging the PGA Tour. I know it's not going to go too far, I think, but what are your thoughts on this?
If I look at it very selfishly, from the point of view of just journalists, I think it would be great for journalists because that means that there will be at least 8 or 10 franchisees. So there will be about 20 journalists getting jobs with the franchisees. Well, but I think, it's been a thought ever since Greg Norman and others started talking about it. It led to World Golf Championships. How many days can you have? Things keep changing, and the fact that Premier Golf League talks reached this stage, where even some of the top players started talking about it. It shows that it has got some wind in its tail. So somebody like Rory, when he says that he doesn't want to go against the history and of the game, and he's a young guy, Brooks Koepka has said no. But just imagine somebody like, say, Arjun Atwal, 49 years old. If he is if he gets a chance to
Arjun
play.
will be upset. He's 47.
Oh, 47. I was going to say, geez, he's 48, becoming 49 very soon, I suppose. Uh, for them, it's a great opportunity. I mean, like, I think there is if we don't call it Premier Golf League, because Premier word is attached to it, and you expect guys like Rory and Tiger to start playing it, but there is a chance for some kind of a franchisee kind of a league to happen. So whether it will be Premier Golf League or whether it will be something else, a toned down version. See, Premier Golf League is not good for the game of golf. That's for sure. I mean, the game of golf as we know it, the PGA Tour. I mean, you can't have PGA Tour events or the majors without having Tiger, Rory, and these guys playing. But a golf league is something that is quite sustainable. There are guys who are in their 40s who can start playing if they think it makes more sense. And yeah, I think it can still develop. It can't be Premier Golf League because Premier players won't be playing. But a golf league.
Right, Joy. So the last question with which we'll finish off. What advice do you give a youngster how to balance his studies and golf? What message do you have for them?
It's if you are a kind of an elite player, and if you are still trying to get better at the game, there are two different things. If you are an elite player, I would strongly suggest that if you can do home schooling and other things, which gives you more time to play golf and spend more time at the driving range, uh, that would be better. If you are not an elite junior golfer, uh, don't give studies a short, you know, uh, don't neglect it, because that's always going to help you get into better colleges, get better jobs. Uh, Golf can be really fickle, I mean, like, I've seen players who have lost interest in the game. I've seen players who have been injured and haven't been able to do what they could have potentially done. I've seen juniors who were so good uh, that, I mean, the world seemed to be their oyster almost, and they gave up golf because they lost interest, because they got injured, things like that. I mean, so don't neglect studies at all. But if you're a really good golfer, do home studies.
Thank you so much,
Give
Joy.
more.
Thank you for coming out and talking to us. It was really a pleasure talking to you after so long. Uh, Wish you all
Thank
the
you,
best
Manjit.
and stay safe. Thank you so much, Joy.
Absolutely. You two guys have fun. See you,
Thank you.
Manjit.
See you. So we are ending this session. Thank you so much for joining. Recording of this will be available very soon. We look forward to a few more sessions with Joy in the future. Take care. Bye.